Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, your one-stop destination for in-depth analysis of security challenges, regional conflicts and the evolving threat of terrorism. Let's take a look at the headlines first. Indian Army crushes infiltration bid, kills 7 Pak-backed terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir. Balochistan erupts in protest against Pakistan's systematic oppression. And protests erupt in Pakistan as PTI demands justice for stolen mandate. Pakistan's relentless push for terrorism suffered another humiliating setback as the Indian Army decisively foiled an ambush attempt by Pakistani infiltrators along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir's Poonch district. But while India continues to eliminate Pakistan-backed threats, it has also suffered losses. In a separate attack, 2 Indian Army personnel lost their lives in an IED blast near the LOC in Akhnoor. This latest escalation exposes the stark contrast between Pakistan's hollow peace overtures and its active support for terrorism. We have a report. In a swift and precise operation, Indian forces gunned down 7 heavily armed infiltrators, including at least 2 to 3 Pakistani army personnel along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir's Poonch district. This incident unfolded in their Krishna Ghati sector on the intervening night of February 4th and February 5th. Sources confirm that the Indian Army preempted an attack by Pakistan's notorious Border Action Team or BAT, a specialized terror unit that operates under the direct command of the Pakistan Army. Sources confirm that the Indian Army preempted an attack by Pakistan's notorious Border Action Team or BAT, a specialized terror unit that operates under the direct command of the Pakistan Army. The BAT team, attempting to target an Indian forward post, walked into a well-planned ambush set up by alert Indian troops. Among the 7 neutralized infiltrators, intelligence reports indicate that the terrorists belong to the Al-Badr group, yet another proxy of Islamabad's military establishment.
The policy of Pakistan is to deny any dead person as their man, even though he may be carrying the ID cards, even though he may be carrying other identification things which prove that he is an active army personnel who has been sent to infiltrate into the Indian state. Pakistan now, because all their other infiltrators that they had got trained, the terrorists, they are not willing to come down to India. They have now started putting in their own regulars who are like you can see the BAT teams or the others to infiltrate into India. And this is now proved very clearly when we have recovered those bodies and we have got the documents and we have seen that these people are of the regular army and not any other what we call the ragtag army of Mujahideens or anyone else.
Even as Pakistan-backed terrorists continue to be eliminated, India has long suffered tragic losses in the ongoing battle against cross-border terrorism. In a separate incident, 2 Indian Army personnel lost their lives in an IED blast near the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir's Akhnoor sector. The White Knight Corps of the Indian Army confirmed the incident, stating that the blast was likely the work of Pakistan-backed terrorists attempting to disrupt border security. Search operations are currently underway to eliminate any remaining threats in the area.
We have seen repeated infiltration attempts right from Baramulla to Kathua. Now this also IED blast that has taken place, it seems that these people had crossed over into the territory into India and planted it and run away. And our patrol that came in involuntarily stepped on the IED and there was this blast. This shows that Pakistan will not mend its ways and more things have to be done at the world level and even at the international level.
The encounter in Poonch and the IED attack in Akhnoor come at a time when Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has been making hollow calls for dialogue with India. His insincerity was laid bare when simultaneously top commanders of terrorist outfits like Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba held a conference in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, reaffirming their commitment to jihad against India. This blatant double game of offering peace overtures while nurturing terrorism on its soil has been Pakistan's long-standing strategy.
Pakistan will always keep talking about dialogue and will always keep talking about let us have trade and other things and all, and keep denying the fact that it is the mother of terrorism and it has got all these training cells over there. We have seen when Balochistan strike took place, how many of these terrorists were killed over there and the graves that they had to make for them. This showed that Pakistan will never ever accept that it has these people on their soil and it is a training ground for terrorists. The politicians will keep talking about let's have dialogue, let's have business, let's have trade, but the ISI and the army, they will carry on with their nefarious designs of spreading terror into Indian territory. Therefore, the Indian government has very rightly stopped and denied carrying out or even trying to establish normal relations with Pakistan till such time it does not stop spreading terror, it does not stop sending in the terrorists and mujahideen into India. Till that time, Indian government is not going to talk to Pakistan because Indian government policy is talks and terrorism don't go together.
India has consistently asserted that Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of the country and that any talks with Pakistan can only happen in an environment free of terrorism. However, Pakistan's continued support for terror groups has only led to an increase in bloodshed. In 2024 alone, Indian security forces have neutralized 75 terrorists across Jammu and Kashmir. Of these, a staggering 60% were Pakistani nationals, further exposing Islamabad's deep-rooted terror nexus. Security forces have eliminated one terrorist every 5 days this year. 17 terrorists were killed along the line of control and international border while attempting to infiltrate, and 26 terrorists were neutralized in encounters deep inside Indian territory. Despite its failing economy and mounting international pressure, Pakistan remains obsessed with using terrorism as a tool against India. While Islamabad harps on Kashmir at international forums, the reality is that terrorism in the region has become almost entirely Pakistan-driven. In yet another episode of Pakistan's systematic oppression in Balochistan, the enforced disappearance of Asma Baloch sparked widespread protests, road blockades, and shutterdown strikes across the region. Though she has now been returned, the abduction is a grim reminder of Pakistan's continued war crimes against the Baloch people. The incident has once again exposed the Pakistani state's complicity in the use of enforced disappearances and state-backed militias to silence dissent. A report.
The streets of Balochistan were flooded with protesters demanding the safe return of Asma Baloch, a young Baloch woman abducted in Khuzdar. The family, supported by the Baloch Ek Jati Committee, staged a sit-in protest for days, blocking major highways, including the Quetta-Karachi highway at multiple points. Markets across the Jalawan region remained shut as people rallied against Pakistan's notorious policy of enforced disappearances targeting the Baloch community. As outrage grew, a video of Asma Baloch surfaced online, one that her family immediately rejected as being coerced by force. Her brother called it a desperate attempt by the perpetrators to manipulate the narrative and pressure the family into ending their protest.
A video of my sister was released on social media by her abductors. This video is rejected by both me and my family and the whole Baloch nation. There is no doubt that this statement was forcefully made by the abductors. By coercing such statements, they are making a failed attempt to blackmail us in order to force us to abandon our peaceful protest. Furthermore, they are trying to change the public opinion which is in our favor. After the release of this video, the administration and local government can no longer claim that the criminals cannot be traced. The account or contact number from which this video was first shared can easily lead to the capture of the criminals. If despite the release of this video, the government fails to arrest the criminals and rescue my sister, I will believe that the administration is deliberately letting the criminals go free.
According to the reports, Asma Baloch was abducted by an armed group allegedly operating under the patronage of former Balochistan Chief Minister Sanaullah Zehri. These so-called death squads have long been accused of working alongside Pakistan's intelligence agencies, engaging in enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, and even illicit drug trafficking. Despite clear evidence of human rights abuses, the international community has largely remained silent. Groups like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch continue to document Pakistan's atrocity, but no meaningful action has been taken against the state.
As responsible international organizations, these organizations should raise the issue of Balochistan on the forums like United Nations Human Rights Council and other international forum. They should also, pressurize Pakistan to ratify the international human rights conventions. They should also publish detailed reports where these incidents are documented and presented in front of the world, where the Baloch themselves cannot reach, but these international organizations have reached there. They can also support the Baloch by supporting the just right of the Baloch liberation movement and acknowledging that there is an indigenous and homegrown movement is going on. They can work with the local human rights organization groups to get those reports published. They can put pressure and sanctions on Pakistan. They can demand for that where it is possible.
Pakistan's repression in Balochistan is not new. For decades, the region has been subjected to enforced disappearances, military operations, and extrajudicial killings. The Pakistan state has repeatedly used brute force to crush any voice that dares to demand justice or autonomy. Entire villages have been razed, activists have been silent, and families have been left searching for their loved ones, often in vain. The silence of Pakistan's judiciary and the inaction of its so-called democratic institutions only embolden the perpetrators. While Islamabad seeks to portray an image of stability and governance, the reality on the ground in Balochistan tells a different story, one of oppression, suffering, and of people who refuse to be broken. Though Asma Baloch has finally returned, her abduction is a chilling reminder of Pakistan's deep-rooted policy of state terrorism against the Baloch people. The protests may have ended for now, but the fight for justice continues. The people of Balochistan refuse to be silenced, demanding accountability for Pakistan war crimes.
Pakistan is facing a deepening political crisis, with mounting protests and escalating tensions following last year's disputed general election. Allegations of rigging, suppression, and political arrests have fueled nationwide unrest, with Imran Khan's PTI leading the charge against what they call a stolen mandate. As the government imposes strict bans on demonstrations, opposition leaders continue to rally support, marking February 8th as Black Day in defiance. With democracy at stake and uncertainty looming, Pakistan stands at a tipping point. Take a look.
Pakistan is facing a deepening political crisis with widespread protests and growing instability following last year's contested general election. The political landscape has been rocked by allegations of a stolen mandate, violence, and the jailing of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. The country's political future hangs in the balance as Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party held a massive rally in Swabi, a city in the northwestern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, on February 8, marking the one-year anniversary of the disputed election. PTI leaders marked the day as a black day and called for nationwide protests. However, the government imposed a ban on rallies in key regions, including Punjab, Balochistan and Islamabad, restricting protests to Swabi, where PTI's headquarters are based. PTI alleges that the 2024 election was rigged and is demanding the release of its leaders, including Imran Khan, who has been jailed since August 2023 on corruption charges.
आवाम के मैंडेट का आपको अगर कदर नहीं है तो जमहूरियत हाथ से जाता जाएगा वो गैर जमहूरियत कुव्वत स्पेस कहलेगी मैं उन लोगों को ये बताना चाहता हूँ जिसने पाकिस्तान तहरीक इंसाफ का मैंडेट चोरी किया पिछली साल 8 फरवरी को लोग इमरान खान साहब के से थे और आज इस 8 फरवरी को फिर लोग इमरान खान साहब के हैं आपकी ये गलतफहमी है आप लोगों को पार्लियामेंट तो दे सकते हैं लेकिन दिलों पे राज नहीं कर सकते.
Last November, violent protests erupted when police used containers to block Khan's supporters from marching to Islamabad for a banned demonstration. The 2024 election held in February was marred by a mobile internet shutdown, pre-election violence, arrests and delayed results, sparking accusations of rigging. While Khan-backed candidates secured 93 seats, they were unable to form a government due to a lack of majority. Therefore, PTI supporters are also calling for the resignation of the current government.
आज हम यहाँ पर इसलिए आए हैं जो 8 फरवरी को हमारा मैंडेट चोरी किया गया था फॉर्म 45 जो है वो इन लोगों ने फॉर्म 45 को बाहर करा दिए गवर्नमेंट से और फॉर्म 47 वालों को अंदर बिठाया जो जाली मैंडेट और जाली लोग हैं इस हवाले से हम यहाँ पर एहतजाजन योम स्याह मना रहे हैं 8 फरवरी के उसके हिसाब से.
As Pakistan grapples with its political turmoil, the future remains uncertain. With escalating protests, mass arrests, and a deepening divide between the government and opposition, the country faces a growing sense of instability. As tensions rise, Pakistan's democratic process appears increasingly at risk, with questions about the integrity of the upcoming elections and the nation's ability to restore order and peace. The road ahead is unclear, and the shadows of a fractured future loom large over the country's political future.
Now let's turn our focus to a pressing concern, the resurgence of ISIS, particularly its offshoot ISIS-K, which continues to carry out deadly attacks despite claims of its defeat. To discuss this critical issue, we have with us a highly respected voice in the field of defense and security, retired Major General Dhruv Kadoch. He brings with him vast experience in sub-conventional conflict, having served in critical operations against terrorists and insurgents in Jammu and Kashmir, the Northeast and even Sri Lanka as part of the Indian peacekeeping force. A decorated officer, he has been awarded the Sena Medal for his leadership in active combat on the line of control. Post-retirement, he continues to contribute to national security discourse through his writings on defense, security and broader societal concerns. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show. Let me begin with a larger question on ISIS itself. In 2019, the group was declared defeated. Yet it has managed not only to survive, but also expand its operations in different parts of the world. What, in your view, are the key factors that have enabled ISIS to resurge despite its so-called defeat?
You see, the ISIS has never been defeated. It has been reduced in capacity to a very great extent, right? And why I'm saying it has not been defeated is because the ideology still remains. And so long as the ideology remains, the group remains. So at some point of time, if the ideology is defeated, then we can say that the ISIS has been defeated. Otherwise, it will continue to function, albeit at a very, very weak capacity.
Shifting our focus to Afghanistan, the Taliban claims to have eliminated ISIS-K hideouts, yet the group continues to carry out deadly attacks. Does this indicate that the Taliban lacks real control over the country? And what does this mean for Afghanistan's long-term stability?
I don't think the Taliban has the capacity to control every aspect of Afghan territory. It doesn't have that. It doesn't have that capability or that reach as of now, and I don't think the reach is going to be developed. You see, Afghanistan is a very vast country, and when you look at the terrain, there are mountains and there are hills and there are water bodies, etc. And when we are looking at that sort of a terrain, even when the Americans were there and the Afghan people were with them, it was very difficult to flush out the Taliban at that time. Now the Taliban is in power; they are facing a similar problem. Who are the people of the Islamic State or from Al Qaeda or from any other group which is operating in Afghanistan? They are the local Afghanis. So here is an Afghani who is actually part of the Taliban, and tomorrow he may shift allegiance to some other group. Basically, if he gets a little bit of more money, he'll shift to that side. So it is not an easy task as far as the Taliban is concerned to keep that level of control over Afghanistan as they would like to. At the same time, I don't think the Islamic State has got that much salience in Afghanistan to really make a very major difference or a very significant difference to Taliban's operations. So Taliban will continue to rule, but they will have problems from various groups, including from the Islamic State.
We have seen that ISIS-K has repeatedly targeted Afghan Shia communities in brutal attacks. To what extent is its resurgence driven by sectarian violence? And do you see the potential for this to escalate into a larger regional conflict?
I think this will always be a matter of very serious concern. The sectarian part of it, because by and large, Afghan society is Shias. I beg your pardon. Afghan society is Sunnis, and there is a very small percentage of Shias there, and the Shias become a comparatively easier target. So if you're looking at within the Taliban, they've got a band of very loyal supporters. But even from amongst those supporters, there will be some who are anti-Shia. And to recruit such people to carry out attacks against the Shia community for the Islamic State or for the elements of, who form part of the IS ideology, who are staying in Pakistan in various hideouts, etc., is not difficult. So I think it has that potential to develop into a wider conflict, not within Afghanistan, but, Iran is a Shia state. In Pakistan, there are a very large number of Shias. Pakistan has controlled that sectarian aspect to quite some extent. I think Afghanistan will also control it, but there will be some level of discord both in Afghanistan and in Pakistan as far as the Shia-Sunni rivalry is concerned.
Beyond the region, ISIS-K's reach appears to be expanding. The group has reportedly plotted attacks in Europe and is actively recruiting from Central Asia. Given these developments, do you think ISIS-K now poses a greater global threat than even Al-Qaeda?
I think when you're looking at the two ideologies, the Islamic State and the Al-Qaeda, both follow the Salafist doctrine. But the Islamic State is far more violent than the Al-Qaeda. And the Al-Qaeda has got a different methodology of functioning as far as how it wishes to achieve a global jihad. Now, the Islamic State is focused on actually forming a caliphate, whereas for the Al-Qaeda that is not such an important issue. When we are looking at the spread of the Islamic State in various parts of the world, within Russian territory there are about 5,000 of these Islamic State fighters. Even within Europe, in Britain, in France, we have got about a few hundred of them in each of these countries. So it has those cells or nuclear cells in each one of the in many of the European countries, in many of the Central Asian republics, and also in Russia. How this will be dealt with, I think the respective governments will deal with it. I'm not, as of now, I don't think it is a very significant threat to either of those countries, either to Russia or to the UK or France or Germany or any of those countries. But I think there is always a risk that if the guard is let down, these people will be able to carry out an isolated attack.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We'll be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@inain.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.